Shalom and welcome to the Talking Memory International Lecture Series. My name is Meidin Shachar and I am an educator and guide at the Ghetto Fighters House and will be your host for today's program. I want to welcome our global audience with a special welcome as always to the survivors and their families that are with us today. We want to thank everyone for their support and interest in our programs. Today's program marks the opening of a new exhibition, Fanny's Journey, in our Children's Museum, Yad L'Yeled. This exhibition brings to life the experience of Fanny Ben Ami through her powerful drawings that she created later in life, accompanied by short excerpts from her testimony. And that's why we're here today to talk about the Fanny herself and the exhibition. I am sure we are all looking forward to learning about this incredible story. Today's program is in partnership with Yad L'Yeled France, the Johannesburg Holocaust and Genocide Center, Classrooms Without Borders, and the Rabin Chair Forum at George Washington University. And before starting today's program, I want to take a moment to remember a dear colleague and friend, Ron Cohen Pereira, who passed away on November 6th. I knew Ron for over 25 years, working together at the Ghetto Fighters House. I learned so much from him. He was what we call in Yiddish, a mensch, and he really had the biggest heart, always willing to help when we needed his advice, a pioneer in guiding the journey to Poland, and I should know because all three of my children were with him in Poland. There aren't enough words to describe his contribution to Holocaust education, his deep knowledge of Holocaust history, and his unique ability to guide in our museum. His final project, on which he worked for 2 years, was a detailed guidebook that will accompany the Ghetto Fighters House Camps exhibition, which he finished just 2 weeks before his death, and was fortunate to see the final version. He will be greatly missed, and if you understand Hebrew, I invite you to go to the Ghetto Fighters House YouTube channel to watch his online webinars, the Hebrew version of Talking Memory. And if you go to the next slide, the last two pictures on the left, you can see Ron doing the Hebrew version of Talking Memory, which I learned from greatly. We started together during Corona, and he helped me put together the Talking Memory series. I learned a lot from him, and he was my first tech person. So thanks to him, we're all here 5 years later. And on the right, he's a storyteller. He always was. And he's telling the story of his own family from Holland. Both his mother and father were survivors from Holland. And he was explaining the story once again to one of our visitors from abroad. So with that, I want to thank Ron, and may his memory serve as a blessing. And I want to invite our first speaker, Aryeh Barnea. Barnea studied at the Faculty of Law at the Hebrew University, became an advocate, and practiced his profession. On the invitation of the Jerusalem Municipality and the Ministry of Education, he worked as principal of the Denmark High School in the Katamonim neighborhood in Jerusalem. During this time, he won, together with his school, the Education Awards of Jerusalem and the State of Israel. In addition, he won the Education Award of Yad Vashem. He acted as principal of the Gymnasia Herzliya in Tel Aviv, the Be'er Tuvia Regional High School, and the Ben Gurion High School in Emek Hefer. He now serves as the principal of Yehud Comprehensive High School. The son of Holocaust survivors, he teaches about the law and the Holocaust at the Hebrew University. For 18 years, he served as the chair of Amcha, the Israeli Center for Psychological and Social Aid for Holocaust Survivors. He is co-founder of Lapid, or Torch in Hebrew, the movement for transmitting the lessons of the Holocaust, and acted as chairman for over 7 years. He is the chairman of the committee to recognize the heroism of Jewish rescuers, which is the subject of today's program, during the Holocaust, and initiated the recently inaugurated Jewish Rescuers Center located at the Wilfrid Israel Museum in Hazorea, Israel. Barnea published 2 books on the Holocaust, We Did Not Surrender and One Fate, and the book Education and the Development of Man and Society. And with that, I give Aryeh Barnea the floor.
Thank you very much, Madin, and my friend Ronit Lusky and other workers of the Ghetto Fighters House involved in this important meeting. Thank you all people who are attending the meeting. And all possible respect for Fanny Ben Ami, the lady from Holon, the painter, and a hero not only in the internal Jewish context, but for mankind, in my opinion. Why do we deal with the question of Jews rescuing other Jews in the Holocaust? First of all, when we say in the Holocaust, we don't mean just during the Holocaust, because some of the rescuers worked in Zurich, in New York, in Jerusalem, and tried to help Jews survive through political measures and others. We mean right now the Jews who did this inside the Holocaust. They were living in one of the 24 countries, which may be called the Holocaust countries. They lived under the Nazis and their helpers. Their lives were in danger, like the lives of any of the other Jews in this situation. But they made a rare decision to do everything they could, even under circumstances that made it impossible or almost impossible to rescue others. And when I say others, I don't mean their mother or their children, which is natural, but other people, some of whom they had not known prior to the Holocaust. They met them in a ghetto, in the forest, in a concentration camp, in a forced labor camp, in a death camp. From time to time, those were Jews who came from countries that spoke different languages, and their rescuer could not communicate with them, but he saved them. At least he tried to save them. We are dealing not only with people that succeeded in saving others, but with people who tried to save others. And we know that in other cases of non-Jews who saved Jews, we treat seriously cases in which the Jews finally did not survive. But the Frenchman or German or Greek did their best to rescue. Morally speaking, this is the right criterion in the sense that we cannot assure under the circumstances of the Holocaust, and even today in New York or Tel Aviv, we cannot promise the result. We can do our best, and not everybody could do his or her best when he lived in one of the Holocaust countries. We deal with this topic, first of all, for the reasons because of which we deal with the Holocaust. It is a part of the history of the Holocaust. And the reasons relevant to our duty or feeling or occupation regarding dealing with the memory of the Holocaust differ from one person to another. Moral philosophies are not identical all over the world. The feeling we might have as a second generation like myself, or other people who live in the other side of the world, who may be non-Jews, the reasons differ from one person to another. Nevertheless, after we say this, we should say also that we find no principal difference between dealing with the concentration camps and dealing with non-Jews who rescued Jews and dealing with Jews who rescued Jews. If we wish to understand the Holocaust in full, as much as we can, then this would be one of the parts, and it seems even marginal in the sense that only a few thousand Jews dealt with dealing others as part of millions of Jews in the world, in Europe, in other places. The question is not numerical. The question is principle, how important it is in our eyes. I would like to tell you about our committee that Madin just mentioned and the criteria we use in order to make a decision to a certain person who may be living among us, like Fanny Ben Ami, or other people who passed away already, in our eyes, is a hero or heroine. One fact should be that this person had a goal of rescuing others under the Nazis' rule. Number two, he did something with this feeling of duty he had in his heart. Number three, he took upon himself or herself an additional risk. The basic risk of every Jew under those circumstances was that he knew from a certain point in the timetable that the Nazis may kill him, and the probability was very high. And he lived under this risk and tried to save himself. And if he had a mother, he tried to save her first, which would be natural. And we thank those people for their good deeds, even in the context of rescuing themselves. We are happy about every Jew who managed to survive. But when we deal with Jewish rescuers, we are referring to those people who took upon themselves an additional risk. Because the probability of the Nazis that intended to kill them became much higher when they coped with the local laws and the intentions of the Nazis and tried also to rescue others. Therefore, when we meet a story of people who did the same thing, trying to rescue Jews persecuted by the Nazis, but lived in New York, we send them or their children a letter of recognition, but we do not define them as one of the heroes or belonging to the heroes of those people who were at the ultimate risk. 25 years ago, my dear friend who passed away already, Chaim Roth from Holland, who lived in Jerusalem, made a decision together with his friends to form the committee dealing with Jewish heroes that saved others. For Chaim, it was a part of his biography. As a child in Amsterdam, he was rescued by two people who belonged to the Dutch underground. One was Jewish and the other was Dutch, a Christian, and they worked together for many people, not only Chaim, mainly children. And they managed to transfer Chaim to a village to which Nazis, in most cases, did not arrive, and to find a local family that was willing to accept the child and protect him. Many years later, Chaim convinced the Yad Vashem Institute in Jerusalem to define the Dutch person as a hero, a righteous among nations. But the Jew got no recognition. And after the event in which the non-Jew accepted the title, Chaim formed our committee. I was not even a member. I was a friend of Chaim and tried to help the committee from time to time. But then Chaim called me one evening and told me that I was elected as chairman. I was not a candidate. I didn't know they were looking for a new chairman. That was Chaim. And I remember very vividly the first meeting we had as a committee. Who are the members? Historians, survivors, two survivors, still active, and second generation like myself. One of the survivors, almost 100 years old, is David Gur, an engineer from Ramat Gan, Israel, who was in charge of forging documents in order to save Jews in Hungary. He was 18, and he still still with us, very active, very sharp, and we know he's a special person in all aspects. This committee of ours is trying for many years to cope with the convention according to which those rescuers were altogether a marginal phenomenon in the history of the Holocaust. The explanation given to us regarding this marginal nature of the phenomenon are two. Number one, if we tell the story of the rescuers over and over again, the rescuers, if they're alive and second and third generation, will feel pride, and we are glad that they will, but other Jews and their families will feel as if they are not important. Only those heroes we mark bear importance. And since we don't want to insult any other survivor, maybe we should not tell this story so much. This is one explanation given to us regarding the marginal nature of the phenomenon in research and in museums. Number two, helping others who belong to your people, to the Jewish people, was a natural phenomenon. The unnatural phenomenon is the help given by Dutch, by Poles, by Germans, by Greek, which is true. Nevertheless, nothing was natural in a decision made by Jews in a concentration camp in other places to rescue others. Had it been natural, maybe hundreds of thousands would have helped others. But we know only of a few thousand because it was so difficult, maybe the most difficult deed ever done. I think that I should tell you about that first meeting we had about 5 years ago, when together with my friends, I entered the activity regarding those rescuers. I asked my friends, what are they trying to achieve? What is our goal? And got two answers. One, we want the public in Israel, in the world, to know about those deeds in the Holocaust. Number two, we would like to respect the saviors. And I suggested to add to those important goals a third one that, in my opinion, is the main one. And that is that if in the future, in Israel and other places, maybe events like October 7th and other horrors occur, we would like to see as many survivors as possible. What is more important than stating this goal of ours? If we want to see so many survivors, we would like to see rescuers, more rescuers than we had in the past, in history. In order to see more rescuers, we should educate the young generation to the values of the existence of the Jewish people, and value of human life. And we should present to them a model, which is Fanny Ben Ami, which is hundreds of thousands of others. This is the main goal. When we relate to the rescue carried out in France in the Holocaust, we see it as a special story. And my teacher in this context is our friend, a member of the committee, Dr. Tzila Hershko, an expert on France in the Holocaust. We see there Jews active in the local non-Jewish general resistance. And we see 10 different Jewish organizations dealing with rescue. And the number of rescuers and the survivors was one of the largest in the world at the time. Fanny Ben Ami showed us a special example because she was only 13 and because she showed leadership that in most cases we cannot find even if in older people. And therefore, we would like to educate youngsters on the basis of Fanny's story in order to see in our society, all over the world, more people that will be willing to rescue others in tough times. We would like to see times which will make us happy, but we understand that this will not be the case every year in every place in this planet, on this planet. And therefore, we would like to see and learn and teach the stories of the rescuers in order to follow their footsteps. Thank you very much.
And with that, I want to say thank you to Aryeh for your opening remarks. And we're going to move on to our second speaker. So Lilach Efraim is the curator of Fanny's journey. And Lilach is an Israeli art curator and head of the art department at the Ghetto Fighters House Museum. She holds an MA in art history with a specialization in curatorial studies from the University of Haifa, and studied Israeli art and curatorial practice at Bet HaOmanut, the Israeli Art Center in Tel Aviv, Yafo, as well as Holocaust history and memory at the Western Galilee College. At the Ghetto Fighters House, Lilach has curated and developed a wide range of exhibitions exploring the intersection of art, memory, and human resilience. Her curatorial approach combines historical depth with visual sensitivity, creating spaces where visitors encounter complex stories through emotion, imagination, and empathy. Among her notable projects are Changing Landscapes, which is still up, I believe, a collaboration with Gvul Gallery at Kibbutz Hanita, featuring 11 contemporary artists from northern Israel who painted during the Iron Swords War, a collective artistic reflection on conflict and endurance. Substance, Spirit, and Longing by Fanny Ben Ami, an exhibition of iron sculptures addressing displacement and refuge. The Undesirables, which is still open at the Ghetto Fighters House. Art as Spiritual Resistance in French internment camps, based on artworks from the museum's collection, revealing creativity as an act of moral and spiritual defiance. Her international collaborations include Memories of Plants by Lithuanian photographer Dovile Daginier, a poetic reflection on loss, memory, and nature. Fragments of Light by Israeli-American artist Ronit Onono, which just came down, sadly. And The Memory Keeper by the New Zealand artist Helene Carroll, both exploring the power of art to heal and preserve collective memory. Lilach's curatorial vision seeks to create a dialogue between art and remembrance, offering audiences a poetic and human encounter with the past, and reaffirming the role of art as a bridge between memory and the present moment. Lilach, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Professor Barnea, for your thoughtful word about the OZE organization. After hearing about the people who help so many children, I would like to tell you the story of one of them, a girl that named Fanny Ben Ami. In 2 days, a new exhibition will open at Yad Layeled, the Children's Museum, and I'm very happy to share it with you tonight. It's called Fanny's Journey. It's an exhibition with a big heart, one that does not only present a story of children during the Holocaust, but also for children today. It tells the story of one brave girl who turned fear into color. Before I begin, I would like to thank my colleague, Ronit Lusky, who introduced me to Fanny's story and inspired this exhibition. Throughout the presentation, the artwork you will see are all Fanny's own paintings, created years later as she revisits her memories of the journey. Those original works are presented in the exhibition as well. So let me take you now into the story behind the exhibition, the story of Fanny herself. It's the story of a girl, Fanny Ben Ami. Fanny was born in 1930 in Baden-Baden, Germany. When the Nazis come to power, a family moved to Paris, looking for safety. After the German invasion of France, or as Fanny later called them, the wolves, life changed completely. Her father was taken to a labor camp and never returned. Her mother made a very hard but brave decision to save her daughters. She gave them to women from the Jewish aid organization Ozeh. This group take care of the Jewish children and place them in safe homes. From here, Fanny's journey began to move from place to place, sometimes frightened, sometimes full of hope. Fanny and her sister were sent to a children's home in Chotet de Chaumont, where they lived for 3 years. It was a very happy place, full of laughter, learning, and friendship. A small island of peace in a dangerous world. But that didn't last long. When the caretakers heard that the Nazis were coming closer, the home was closed and the children were sent away for different hiding places. Fanny went to live with her aunt Rosa. For a short time, she was with her mother and sister again. During that time, Fanny helped partisans. She carried secret messages that helped save lives. Soon after, Jose planned to organize the group of children to escape Switzerland. Fanny and her sister joined this group, and that was the last time she saw her mother. They said goodbye at the bus station in Megib in French Alps, and that moment became the final parting. Fanny was only 13 years old when the adults guide, who was supposed to lead him, panicked and ran away. So Fanny took charge of the group, 28 children. They traveled by bus and train, and they reached the forest. Some of the children became sick, and Fanny went to a nearby village to look for help. A woman from the village, a stranger, opened her home, gave them food and safe place to stay. A few days later, they continued the journey, crossed the border, and reached freedom in Switzerland. Years later, Fanny started to tell her story through her paintings. Her drawings are full of color and emotion, simple, honest, and full of life. At the bottom of each one, she wrote a short caption in French, as if her younger self was still speaking to us. Through art, she found a way to turn fear into light and memory into something beautiful. So how those memories become an exhibition, a journey that visitor can walk through? This exhibition built around 8 stations, each showing a part of her story, from a home in Germany to the children's home in France, the separation from her parents, the escape, the forest, and finally the moment when she could be a child again in Switzerland. A dotted red line, a dot red line along the walls showing a path. Small icons mark the places she passed. Baden-Baden, Paris, Chateau de Chaumont, Megib, the forest, and Switzerland. You can see it in the bottom. The line starts with the first painting, where she said goodbye to her cat Mitzi and her bird Henzi, and ends with the bird returning to her, a symbol that she found peace again. Each station shows several funny original paintings, along with the short quotes from a story, written in clear and simple language so that children can easily understand and connect. The color of the world shifts gradually from warm to cool tones, following the emotion rhythm of her journey, from safety to fear to courage, and finally to calm. And because this is an exhibition designed for children, the painting was also hung as a children's eye level, so they can stand right in front of funny drawings and meet her gaze directly. At the end, young visitor can join an art workshop inspired by funny stories. The children's drawings from the workshop are shown on a wall of creations, a big open wall filled with their artworks. Together, they form a living collage of hope, creativity, and humanity. This exhibition fits Yad Layeled like a glove. Yad Layeled is the first museum in the world that tells the story of Holocaust through the eyes of children. It focused not on the darkness, but on the light, on courage, imagination, and friendship. Fanny's journey continues this mission. It does not only tell the story about the children, it speaks directly to them. It invites them to see themselves in the story, to walk beside Fanny, and to think about what it means to care for others and to make brave choices. It's not just a story from the past, it's also a story for children of today. And that makes it so powerful and important right now. Well, I would like to share a personal note from my own place as a curator. I believe that art can help us understand the Holocaust in new ways. Fanny's painting let us feel what facts cannot explain, the emotions, the choices, and the strengths behind the survival. Here in Israel, in the past year, has not been easy for children. They've lived with fear, alarm, and uncertainty. In this reality, Fanny's story becomes more than a memory. It becomes a message about courage, kindness, and believing in people. For me, working in this exhibition was not only professional journey, but also personal one. It reminds me that memory is alive. It breathes, change, and find a new way to speak. And that, I believe, is our role as curator and educators, to keep memory alive, open, and full of meanings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lilach, for your presentation and for putting together this exhibition. I don't know if you mentioned in your presentation, but all the artworks are now donated to our archives. So they're always going to be available and probably digitalized at some point, right, Greta? So anyone who is interested will be able to see them as well. And it was just so, moving to watch the whole process unfold. And on Tuesday, we have the actual physical in-person opening, and Fanny will be there. How old is she now? 98, right?
95.
95. So we're looking forward to that as well.
95, yeah.
Just take a look while I'm introducing our final speaker, Greta, to see if there are any questions for you. And I'll also take a look once I introduce her. And we're moving on to our final speaker today. Greta Barak is a senior archivist at the Ghetto Fighters House Archives. She holds MAs in Jewish Studies from Babis Bolye University and Israel Studies at University of Haifa. And she has a diploma in archival and information science from Tel Aviv University. Her work covers all stages of archival practice, from appraisal, acquisition, and description of Holocaust-related materials to their long-term preservation and accessibility. And with that very short introduction, Greta, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madine, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Maybe before I really start my presentation, I should mention that Fanny's works were already digitized and they are available in the online catalog of the Ghetto Fighters House Archive. So you can just search for them online, and if you are not able to find the catalog, you can just contact us and we'll send you the link. So today I wanted to give a brief overview of those collection preserved in the Ghetto Fighters House archives, as the history of those organizations is connected to Fanny's story. As Lilach already mentioned, those organization was a Jewish Relief Association. It has its roots in Russia, actually, in 1912. Between the wars, there were different branches in different countries, and during the Second World War, they were really active in France. And of course, after the war, they retook their activities in several countries, including Eastern Europe. The Ozer collection at the Ghetto Fighters House Archive is a set of personal cards issued during the activities of those organizations for Jewish children under its care. These cards contain information about the children and were used by the staff for administrative purposes. Many of these records include sensitive personal details concerning the child, such as family background, health, education, and sometimes even fingerprints. In archival terms, this collection should be seen as part of the administrative records of those organization archives. I can tell you that the collection is actually divided into two groups according to the period when the cards were issued. The first group contains personal records of Jewish children found in those children's homes in south of France in 1943. We have around 300 cards from this type, while the second group contains personal records of Jewish children found under the care of Jose after the Second World War in countries such as Poland, Romania, Hungary, Italy, Czechoslovakia, and also we do have a few cards from France too. Actually, this second part is the largest part of the collection, and it includes hundreds of cards, over 700, which most of them were issued between 1946 and 1948. While we don't know while we know that part of the collection was deposited at the Ghetto Fighters House archive through the documentation efforts of Miriam Novich, one of the founders, the first curator of the museum, and an emblematic figure for the Ghetto Fighters House archives, further research is needed regarding the administrative history of this archival unit. I should also point out that our collection is not a complete set of those records from during and after the Holocaust. And those interested in this subject should definitely contact those organizations which remains active today in France. Now, I would like to show you an example from each group of records. So the first group, as I said, records of Jewish children in south of France in 1943. We heard before that Fanny stayed for 3 years in those children's home at the Chateau de Chaumont. Actually, our collection does not include Fanny's personal card or her sisters that were with her. Nevertheless, I chose for today a personal card of another girl that was in the same place. Her name was Marie Miriam Bakalia, and she arrived to Chateau de Chaumont most likely in the summer of 1942 from the Croc colony with a group of children. You can see on the screen the type of information included in this type of materials. Besides family name and first name, you have date and place of birth of the child, nationality. Miriam was French. You have the address. Also here, the organization included the address in the country of origin, for example, because many Jewish children came from Germany or Austria and found refuge in France, but also the address in France itself. The card also included information concerning the parents of the child, about their nationality. For example, you can see here that Miriam's father was Jacques Bakalia, her mother was Blanche, but actually both of them had Polish citizenship. I can tell it's not mentioned on the card, but I can tell you that they arrived to France at the end of the 20s. On the card, you can actually see that in the moment this file was filled in 1943, the father was already deported, while the mother was still in France, most likely in Paris, according to the address. Both her parents perished during the Holocaust. The mother was also deported in 1944. The card also includes information about her siblings, Two of Miriam's sisters were actually with her in Chateau de Chaumont. And on the second part of the card, you have Miriam's photograph, and on the bottom, her fingerprints. I do want you to pay attention to the name written on the upper side, Bachelier, because it's a hint about what was happening with Miriam during that period. Actually, Miriam, together with her two sisters that were with her at Chateau de Chaumont, was taken to a convent of mercy in Milan and placed in the care of Mother Augustine. And upon their arrival to the convent, they were given false identities, and the family name that they were given was Bachelier. The second type of records that I mentioned of personal cards of Jewish children found under the care of Jose in the aftermath of the Second World War. They were used to keep track of the children that were under the care of Jose. But also they had a different purpose, and that was to secure sponsors from Jewish communities in the United States, Australia, South Africa, Central America, etc., who could provide financial support for the children and the remaining families. Also, sometimes these cards include details about the child's relative in the United States or Palestine, Eretz Israel, and the organization was trying to find a way to trace these relatives and connect them with the children. On the screen, you can see the personal card of Anita Vax, born in 1935 in Krakow. This is a card issued in 1947 in Krakow. It includes information about Anita's parents, her father, Edward, a chemical engineer who was killed during the war, and her mother, Charlotta, who survived and with whom Anita was living at that time in Krakow. She also had a brother, Roman, who also survived, and actually we also have his card in the collection. The card also includes details concerning Anita's health, education, and even physical measurements such as height, waist, and shoe size. Because as you can imagine, the survivors, they needed help also in finding clothing. Most importantly, these documents also include a short history of the child and his or her family during the Holocaust. I would like to read to you what they wrote on Anita's file. Together with the parents and the brother lived under German occupation. 1943, the German killed the father in Lvov. The mother with the children saved themselves on Christian documents. Anita on the land, the brother with the mother in Warsaw. As you can see on the screen, this is the language they used. It's most likely a poor translation from Polish to English. And when I saw this card, the phrase Anita on the land wasn't clear to me. And I looked on Anita's brother file and I saw it's written in the same way. So we decided to conduct further research to understand what happened with her. We succeeded to contact Anita, showed her those documents, learned her full story, and also actually Anita decided to donate some of her personal materials to the archives. So what happened with Anita is that at one point the family moved to Lvov from Krakow, and after the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union, the family was sent to the Lvov ghetto. A Polish acquaintance, friend called Victoria, was working for Anita's relatives in Krakow, help them with food, but also help the family to find hiding places outside of the ghetto. And actually, Victoria succeeded to find 4 hiding places for each member of the Vax family. Anita was sent by Victoria to her mother and her siblings that they were living in Kamieniec Dolna. And she told her mother that Anita is a Polish Christian child, that her parents were killed in a bombardment in Lvov. And this is where Anita stayed until the end of the war. While Anita was there, Victoria visited her several times, and actually one time she brought a photographer with her to take photographs of Anita for the first communion ceremony that was taking place in the village and who was customary for the girls that were her age. While most likely the photographer, from his perspective, thought he's documenting the village event, and Anita herself was knew that she needs to dress nice and be a good girl, and she needed to mark the event. Victoria had a different meaning and a different purpose for the photograph. She sent copies to Anita's parents who were in hiding as a way to send a sign of life from Anita without putting her in danger. To conclude, each record in this collection, beyond its past administrative usages, conceals a life story. We are always pleased when we can link Ozek cards to a personal collection in the Ghetto Fighters House archive. I should tell you that the whole collection was in the past scanned on microfilm, and nowadays we are rescanning according to today's technology parts of it, and everyone can come to our research room and have access to it. Nevertheless, because the documents include many times sensitive personal information, we have difficulties in uploading the whole collection online. So what we are doing is, for example, the photographs from the forms. We are putting them in the photo archive online, and then you'll see in the description the number of the form itself that is kept in the archive. Or in other cases, most with the post-war cards, we are trying to upload the metadata of the card itself, but not a scan. So if you are going on our online catalog and you find something, you can just contact us and then we can send you the scan. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Greta, for sharing all the information. I'm always amazed by our archives. And I'm so glad that we've decided to add a short presentation to as many programs as we can to really show how many of these programs stem from what's happening in our museum, if it's an exhibition like Fanny's Journey, or if it's through our archives and discoveries that are made through our archives. So I really appreciate the effort that you put into sharing that with us. And more importantly, I think our archives is digitalized and it's not a given. There's so many places where you look up information, you can't find it. And I think the Ghetto Fighters House is in the forefront of making sure that information is available. And I'm so glad to hear that the drawings that Fanny made are already online. So if you, I don't know if you have it with you, if you want, you can put the link in here. Meanwhile, I want to say thank you to Greta, but I want to thank everyone that came to the program today, and of course to all our sponsors, and to Yoni, our tech person, who helped us bring all the presentations smoothly. With that, I want to say shalom and wish everyone a good day or a good evening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Toda.